Hello and welcome back to Chasing Excellence, a show about chasing what truly matters. My name is Patrick Cummings, here as always with Ben Bergeron. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Pat.
Good to see you. We've got listener questions this time around about the 5 factors of health, those few fundamental behaviors that most positively affect our performance, vitality, and longevity. If you happen to be new here, first, welcome. Second, the 5 factors: how we eat, how we train, how we think, connect, and recover. This week, we've got 4 of your think-focused, think-related questions. If you would like to get a question into a future episode, we would truly love it. ChasingExcellence.email is the best way to do it. Get on our free newsletter list. We send out an email every weekend with a link to a form, and you can submit as many as you've got. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can in future episodes. We've got 4 questions. We're just going to dive right in. This first one is from Steven. It's admittedly part shout out and part question. Shout out is, we used to do this a lot more, but when folks send us really nice notes, we like to read them because they make us feel good. So this is part shout out, part question from Steven. I really enjoyed the July 12th episode. I was listening to it with my daughter during one of those 26-hour travel days that you and Ben made light of the last time you answered one of my questions. I found your discussion on just showing up to be incredibly spot on. As a professor, founder, longtime CrossFitter, indeed the only way to 1, get your PhD, 2, start a tech company, and 3, hit your fitness goals is to show up and not complain. Here's his question. My only niggle, which is a word, niggle, is that as I enter my mid-50s, CrossFit becomes less and less rewarding because it's not about getting new skills. It's about being able to keep doing it. So a question: how do you get that dopamine response when you no longer actively working towards that 500-pound back squat, but instead towards, can I simply just do a box jump?
A couple different ways to approach this. The first is like that Mike Tyson quote that we've referenced before, which is, discipline is doing the things you don't want to do like you want to do them. Mm-hmm. When dopamine is no longer a part of the equation, it's where discipline takes over. I'm not a big fan of the external motivation, which is like pump up music, watch Rocky the night before, whatever it might be. It's a matter of doing hard things because you know what's on the other side of those hard things. That would be the first part of the answer. The second part is we just have to reestablish some of the goals. The goals might not be to get 5 unbroken muscle ups. It might not be to be able to walk on your hands. It might not be to snatch 200 pounds. It might not even be able to hold on to PRs. But what if it was the type of thing where it was in our 50s and you're driving around with your daughter right now going to different sporting events? What if it was, in a decade, I want to be able to continue to work with her, train with her, play in the backyard, go on the court, go on the ice, go in the rink, go and do the things that I can do with her now? Or even farther, I want to be the granddad my grandkids brag about. No other granddad is skiing black diamonds at 78 years old. Yep. Ripping through the moguls and going off the jumps. That can ski from first chair to last chair. How cool would it be? So like, how cool would it be? All these dads find so much fulfillment in coaching their kids hockey, soccer, baseball. How cool would it be to be a granddad doing that? Like when you don't have any other real obligations, to live in the town or the town over from your grandkids and coach their sports teams. Well, if you're decrepit, if you're broken, if you're in the nursing home or you're sick, that's not even an option. We just have to reassess our goals. It's not about being able to run a sub 6-minute mile or do a sub 3-minute Fran. Those things aren't real. They're not. Those are arbitrary goals. Yeah. Those things don't affect your life. They don't actually. They boost your ego. Those are ego-driven things because you feel like you're getting accolades, and maybe it's not. So I don't want to put that in. Maybe it's not, but for most people, I should say, those are ego-driven metrics, which is, I want other people in the gym to go, wow, look, he just cleaned 300 pounds. That's amazing. Whereas the other stuff about you having impact on other people, and the reason you're training right now is to be able to have the impact on other people for decades, is the opposite of ego. It's about others. The reason I say that it might not be ego is also because, like, I just want to grow. I just want to be better. This is the way that I am measuring my own development in this physical capacity. It's about improvement, growth, and evolution. I don't really care if anybody knows about these things. I do in my garage. I don't post anywhere. It's just my thing. And that's why I say I kind of checked myself there with, like,
yeah,
a lot of it has to do with ego, but not all of it.
Yeah, it's interesting because what I was thinking when you were saying that was, I think there's a really useful distinction between ego and pride. And I think pride can be, thrown into that bucket of ego and vanity. But I think about myself a lot. I'm certainly not chasing PR friends and et cetera. But I take a lot of pride in the fact that I can still do what I was doing 20, whatever years, number of years ago when we first stumbled upon this CrossFit thing. I take a lot of pride in being able to do that, knowing that a lot of people can't. A lot of people my age, a lot of people our age gave up a long time ago. A lot of people started even 10 years ago or 20 years ago and just gave up because it was too hard or whatever reasons it might be. For me, the pride is a good thing. It's not ego, but doing this kind of training makes me feel good because I know most people don't sign up for it, especially at 40, whatever I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. Maybe circle back to the question. Basically, he's like, what am I chasing? Or how do I stay engaged? How do I stay motivated?
Right.
Pride is a big one. So think about the flip side to it. What if you stopped? How are you going to feel about yourself if you stopped?
That's a great point.
So sometimes it's not about what's next. It's about what happens if I stop.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be hugely motivating because I think most of us understand what's on the other side of stopping.
Right.
And I'm not talking about, putting on the extra 15 pounds. I'm not talking about not being able to run a sub 7-minute mile. I'm talking about the way we feel about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one of the big reasons I do this also is because, Patrick, it's not only the cognitive, I can't start my day. This is where we talked about a recent episode about, like, I train 7 days a week. It's because I have a hard time starting my day and feeling good about myself unless I do this thing.
Yeah.
Once I've done this hard thing, it's my therapy. I feel good. I'm ready to do the day. That's behind me. I've done the hard things. I realize that I need this thing. So that idea of what am I chasing if I'm not chasing new skills and PRs, I'm chasing that feeling of feeling good about myself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the inverse of how I know I will feel if I stop this, to
Absolutely.
your point. I think that's really powerful. Because, what will I not be able to do that I can do today in 10 years if I stop this? You get to a point in life, and that's a powerful motivator. Maybe you're not running towards something, but you know what you're running away from. Maybe not running away from, but you know what you're hedging against. Once you really get to a certain, especially kind of in this kind of training, you have a good sense of how you will feel if you stop doing this thing.
We are not entitled to functionality. You don't just get it. When you're 15, you are. Like, when you're 15, like, some bad luck has to happen upon you for you not to have functionality at 15. Some really bad luck. At 85, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
You either have to have crazy good luck to have functionality, or you got to earn it.
Yep.
You have to earn that capacity. And that's what I'm chasing. That's what I think a lot of people in the second half of their life are chasing.
Yep. Agreed. Thank you, Stephen, for the shout out and the question. We're going to jump into the next one. This one is from Beth. I love how you talk about awareness, intention, and action. I'm trying to view triggers as opportunities to grow. I struggle often with letting go of situations where I've been wronged and I desire justice. What advice do you have for letting go of your anger when you deserve justice and are suffering from being wronged? How does one avoid a victim mindset if they are, in fact, a true victim?
I love it, Beth. You're on the path. Right? So that's how you do it. You stay on the path. And we're not at ground zero for sure. the words that you're using, the language that you're using lets me know that you have awareness. Your question is so great because you start off with, I love your framework of awareness, intention, and action. You have the awareness at this point. That's the hardest thing to have. So now we need the intention. And it's what you're asking for is what are the steps? What are the tools? What's the game plan for when this happens? Phenomenal question. And then we got to put that into practice. Here's the way we do it. When you feel you deserve things and that there is an injustice that needs to be righted, your words, we need to stop using those words. Those are the words of the victim. That's the way the victim thinks. So you're on the right, you've leveled up a lot. You are well past stage 0. We're still in the awareness phase because you're aware that there's this framework. You're aware of the language of the victim, but we're not always aware of it. And when we become aware of the language of the victim, which says it's someone else's fault, that's what the victim says. It's someone else's fault. The challenge is to move away from that to something wrong happened, to this sucks, to bummer, what a crappy spot this puts me in. That doesn't sound like that big of a difference, but it is. That's the pessimist mindset. Instead of, I need to be righted, I need to see the justice, I need to make sure that that person pays the price for what they've done. Everything needs to be fair. This isn't fair. That's the language of the victim. Remember, the language of the realist. There is good and bad in life. It's going to happen. You're going to experience injustice. You're going to experience things that are not fair. We need to move past it and just go, this sucks, but it's not about me. I'm not the center of the universe. The universe is not out to get me. It sucks that it rains on my birthday. Not, of course it rained on my birthday. Woe is me. And that is a big step function level up. And then maybe we can get to where we're an optimist and we work through this. The second part we work through it is not with the big things. Not like my 6-month-old died in their crib. I'm not expecting anyone to not feel like a victim there. I don't know how you move past the victim mindset there. I don't know how to do that. That's not my game. I don't know how to play that game. But I do know when someone rear ends you in traffic, you were just sitting at a red light and someone smashes into you at 25 miles an hour. And now you have an injury. You got to deal with insurance. You get your car fixed. Your car doesn't work. There's cash outlays on your end. You're missing work. It's not woe is me. This didn't happen to you on purpose. Just crappy things in the world happen. So you accept it as a bad part of what happens in life. The ones I'm not willing to excuse is your phone doesn't connect to Bluetooth in your car and you'll get to listen to Chasing Excellence. You feel really sad for yourself, or the tragedy of that, right? The tragedy of your food waiting longer to get to you at a restaurant than you expected. Right? The tragedy of the small inconveniences of life. So Beth, you asked for the tools. This is the tools. When you start to feel those triggers, the small ones, the very, very small ones, we try to work through those. Once you're aware of being triggered, you're no longer on the subconscious level, which is a default human operating system programmed for survival. We want to recognize and ingrain the negative because it is the negative that's avoiding the negatives, what's going to keep us alive. Instead, we pop out of that subconscious default to a conscious one. And then we work on the conscious conversation in the prefrontal cortex, not in the amygdala, where we make rational choices. Not just go because we're in this sewer cycle of this thinking, feeling loop, but we try to pop ourselves out of that and have a rational conversation with ourselves. Sometimes it will work and sometimes it won't. But over time, more and more of those conversations with yourself will start to work, and you'll start to level up where the small inconveniences don't trigger you anymore. And then we get to work on the medium ones. And the medium ones don't trigger you anymore. Then we get to work on the bigger ones. This is the exact way that we build fitness in the gym. Start with the light weights, the medium weights, and then the heavy weights. It's the same way we build mental fitness. Remember, it's mentally ill, mentally well, and mentally fit. The way you build mental fitness is by working on the things that trigger you, recognizing them, awareness, popping out of the default operating system to a cognitive, conscious level, and working on it. Once you do that, you're picking up the mental barbell and you're doing reps.
I think the classic Stoic question of what is in my control is also very helpful here. Because I think a lot of times when we fall into that victim mindset of being wronged, having an injustice, what that is another way to say, I'm focused on all the things I cannot fix anymore. I'm focusing on all the things I can't actually change. I'm focusing on all the things that happened yesterday or 2 days ago or a month ago that I don't have the agency to change anymore. And I think just flipping it back to, okay, today, injustice notwithstanding, what can I do? What is in my control? And focusing on the actions or the ideas or the thoughts that are or could at least be proactive and reactive in a positive sense might also get us out of that sewer system.
It's so good. The circle of control is always kind of like 101, right? We have to understand that premise. One of the things you've heard me say so many times to my athletes and in speaking engagements I do is when you ask yourself, do I have a problem?
Mm-hmm.
If the answer is no, well, then don't complain. There's no reason to complain if you don't have a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the answer is yes, then ask yourself another question. Is there something I can do about it? If the answer is yes, then don't complain. Go and do something about it. If the answer is no, there's nothing I can do about it, then don't complain. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yep.
In all scenarios, those decision trees funnel back to the same answer, which is don't complain. The victim mindset is one of complaining. It's about focusing about things outside of your control. Here's the second part of that, which I think is really important to highlight. Ask yourself, do I have a problem right now? Right this moment, right here, right now, do I have a problem? And the answer 99% of the time is going to be no. What you're projecting is either an injustice of the past or something of the future, which you're either holding on to or projecting. But you don't have a problem right now. You're not in pain. You're not struggling for air. You have full functioning capacities of all of your limbs. You're not dying of thirst, of heat, of exposure. You're not lonely. Right now, you're good. This is actually what I was talking to my class this morning about. We had this really hard bike interval piece, and in the middle of it, I said, stay right here, right now. You're okay right now. Don't allow yourself to project to what you're going to feel like in 2.5 minutes. Right now, you're good. I repeated that 3 or 4 times. You're good. Right now, you are good. You're good. Like right now, you're good. Because what ends up happening, this is why exercise is such a good medium for us to train on this, is we are pretty good. Yes, your heart rate's at 88%. It's at 182 beats a minute. And yes, your legs are burning. But for the next 5 seconds, there's no issues. Like, you're good. You're good for the next 5 seconds. What we do is we go, oh my God, but what's this going to feel like in 3 minutes? What's this going to feel like in round 5? That's the subconscious thought trying to keep you alive, which then leads to an emotion of anxiety, fear, dread, doubt, nervousness, which then closes up the artery walls, which restricts the blood flow to the working muscles, which then makes it harder. And then within 25 seconds, it's so much harder. It's this reinforcing thing like, yup, see, I knew this was coming. I was so right. I should have backed off before. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're good. You're good right now. I'm good. I'm good right now. I could hold this pace forever. I'm good right now. It does the opposite. It opens up the arteries. And all of a sudden, your feet get a little bit lighter. Your legs don't get as heavy. Your heart rate comes down a notch or two. You go, wow, this becomes the success cycle. It's why people on the back of the pack fall way off the pack, and the people in the front of the pack can extend their leads. What are we telling ourselves?
All right. Thank you, Beth. That was a great question. We're going to take 2 minutes to say thanks to a few sponsors. Then we've got some more questions to dive into. We're brought to you this time around by Manukora. Here's the thing. I already think you're pretty sweet, but if you want to bump it up another notch, you need to check out the simple and delicious honey from Manukora. Head to manukora.com/excellence to learn more and get $25 off their starter kit. I'll spell that for you at the end of this ad. Now, you might put regular old boring honey into a lot of foods, breakfast teas, protein, salad dressings, etc. But let me tell you, Manukora is going to put all grocery store honey to shame. Its richness, creaminess, and complexity of flavor are unbeatable. Not to mention the incredible health benefits. It's ethically produced by Manukora's master beekeepers in the remote forests of New Zealand. This honey is packed with powerful nutrients to support immunity and gut health. The bees collect nectar from the Manuka tea tree in New Zealand, which has 3 times more antioxidants and prebiotics than your average honey. Plus, it contains a special antibacterial compound called MGO. Just 1 heaping teaspoon every morning can help you get the most out of the amazing bioactives in Manukora. Head to manukora.com/excellence to get $25 off the starter kit, which includes an MGO 850 plus Manuka honey jar, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, and a guidebook. And here's the spelling: manukora.com/excellence. We're also brought to you this time around by Qualia Senolytics. If you're looking to resist aging at the cellular level, it is time to try Qualia Senolytic. You can go to qualialife.com/excellence. That's QUALIA life.com/excellence for up to 50% off. And if you use the code excellence at checkout, you'll get an additional 15% off. So have you heard of Senolytics yet? They're being touted as one of the biggest discoveries in promoting healthy aging. As we age, our bodies accumulate senescent or zombie cells that no longer serve a purpose and can actually hold us back. That's where Qualia Senolytic comes in. It's designed to help your body eliminate those senescent cells, much like pruning dead leaves from a plant, and it allows your body to thrive. All you've got to do is take it 2 days a month and you're set. Qualia Senolytic is non-GO, vegan, and gluten-free, and it comes with a 100-day money-back guarantee, so there's 0 financial risk. Plus, a recent clinical study shows that senolytic supplementation can play a huge role in enhancing how we age. So don't miss this. Head over to qualialife.com/excellence for up to 50% off. And if you use the code excellence, you'll get an additional 15% off. It's also available at select GNC locations for those of you who go out into the world and buy things in real life. For the rest of us, let's be honest. qualialife.com/excellence. It's qualialife.com/excellence. All right, let's jump back into our questions. This next one is from Erin. I'm currently in the military trying to figure out if this is something I should do for a career. I love being in the military and found my job very, very rewarding and purposeful, which is important to me, but I have some health and quality of life concerns I'm trying to weigh. I currently spend 11 to 12 hours at a minimum on a military installation. We work out from 6:30 to 8, then are expected to be at work from 9 to about 5. I currently barely get 6 hours of sleep a night because I have to be up at 5:15 and I go to CrossFit after work every day. So I get home between 6:30 and 7:30, so it's hard for me to get straight to bed. We also do training events multiple times a year that involve sleeping in the field, barely sleeping at all, and at least once a month I have to work a 24-hour shift. How do you decide if you should stay at a job because you love it when you know it is negatively affecting your health? Is it worth doing a job that I enjoy, or should I try something else that I may enjoy less so that I can ensure I have health long term?
Can you give me that? I just want to make sure I got this. 6:30 to 8 was...
I think she may have added some context that I took out, which was like as a unit, they work out together. Yep.
Okay, 6:30 to 8, they work out as a unit.
I think so.
9 to 5.
And then work 9 to 5, and then she goes to a CrossFit gym afterwards. for what I assume is an individual workout.
And then the question was basically, how do we know if what we're doing is detrimental to our health?
How do we balance a job that we like, but that may not be long-term healthy versus possibly doing work that she loves less, but gave more space for the health that she clearly cares about?
Okay. It doesn't sound that crazy to me. Having to be outside doing work in the field, work out with your team at 6:30, and then working until 5. That's a long day, but an hour and a half of that is being outside working with your team doing physical stuff. That sounds very healthy. She works 9 to 5. That's as little as you can work for a professional job, for like a full-time job. There's the stuff before. I get it. That's extra, but you love it. You really like what you do. After 5 o'clock, you go and do a CrossFit workout. I would suggest going to an earlier class. I don't know if this is Erin's case, and maybe there's other stuff going on where she likes the job, she likes the idea of the job, but she doesn't like the bureaucracy of the military or being on a base or something else. But in terms of the actual hours, this is not a lot. There is a tendency with, and this might be old man Ben talking to old man Patrick, but there is a tendency for the younger generation to think that work doesn't involve work. And this does not sound like that much work. I have plenty of friends that did the hard work stuff, which was unhealthy. The 16 hours a day to 18 or sometimes 20 hours a day. They would sleep underneath their desks on Wall Street, Goldman Sachs, after getting out of their Ivy League schools. It was a pressure cooker for 18 months, survival of the fittest. That's unhealthy. You don't go outside for weeks. My daughter's in finance right now, managing family wealth. It's not even this at all. But she works on Sundays. She worked out last Sunday, then went in. She had to go to work early. She had to be at work at 6 on Monday, where she normally goes to work at 9. But they were like, nope, you got to be here at 6. This is what work looks like. I don't think it's going to get better somewhere else, is my answer to Erin. If you like what you do, this is not an extreme amount of work. Now, if you said, I have to be in a factory where I don't see sunlight, and it was from the 6:30 in the morning till 5 at night, that's a long day. Not crazy, but it's long. Then I'll go, what do you love about it? What do you like about it? Why do you want to stay? And we make some changes in there. But my suggestion to Erin would not be to think about switching careers. It would be about switching perspective. And I find this is a normal conversation. People in the military love what they do, but they also love to hate what they do. They just like the communication amongst them. They get off on complaining. There's a lot of, here we go again. We're doing this again. And so maybe ask yourself one or two things. Do you really love this? Because people, I'm doing this thing that I said I was going to do, and I'm doing it for my country and my brothers and sisters in arms, and I love protecting them. But do you actually? And if you actually do, then we can stop complaining about how much you're actually working. This work level is not unhealthy. This is not, you're working 9 to 5, and then you do some outdoor fitness drill stuff. That's not unhealthy in that respect.
Yeah, really interesting. I think about it inside of what you just said about loving the work, but also loving to complain about the work. You've got to love both sides of the same coin. If it's feeding your purpose and you really do love it, then you can't separate that from the lack of agency you have whilst doing that work. You can't hate the thing that comes with the thing you love. It's just a recipe for constantly
necessarily
being stressed
entwined. It's a part of it.
You can't separate those two things. It's either you love both of them, both sides, or you don't love it at all. When you try to get everything you want without any of the things you don't want, you are putting yourself in a position where you will constantly be unsatisfied and constantly asking yourself, is this the right thing for me? Because you have it in your head that there is a perfect version of this and I just don't have it yet.
There is no such thing as perfect.
Yep.
It does not exist. So, Mark Manson kind of highlighted that he's one that wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***.
Yep.
I said the F word on this. I don't know if I've ever said the F word.
Maybe I'll bleep it just for fun.
Okay, that'd be fun. His idea is like, it's about what are you willing to endure in the crappy parts? Because there's always crappy parts to every single job. You don't have to love the crappy parts, but are you willing to put up with the crappy parts? In this case, the crappy parts are, there's some long hours. And now maybe it's like, no, it's long hours on a military base. And I just hate being on a military base. Well, okay, then that's different than long hours, because there are other jobs that have long hours that aren't on military bases. You have to weigh and measure these things. The example Mark Manson gives is he wanted to be a rock star when he was growing up. He wanted to play in front of arenas and 60,000 people in stadiums, but he wasn't willing to go through the necessary crappy parts to get there. Nobody is just dropped into an arena of 60,000 people. What you start off doing is traveling around with a band in a van from city to city, not showering, moving your own equipment, playing in front of 11 people in this dive bar that no one's listening to you, getting done at 3:30 in the morning, packing up, going to the next city in this place where people don't appreciate you. They're not listening. Are you willing to put up with that part? So a lot of people are. A lot of people are willing to put up with that part to get to the other thing. And even when you get to the thing, there's crappy parts to that.
Yep.
Every job has the crappy parts. And we have to recognize that there's no such thing as perfection. It's the exact same thing if we were talking about you with your significant other.
Yep.
Like, yes, everyone loves the awesome times, but when they trigger you, when they aren't acting at their best, because that's going to happen, because that's a part of it. It just is. Or how much are you willing to put up with that part? And we got to put up with it somewhere, somehow, because that part exists everywhere. There's no such thing as the perfect person for you. There's the right person for you.
Last question is from Marilyn, rather. She says, 8-year-old boy discouraged by 3 years of failure in school before being diagnosed with dyslexia. I saw his low self-image. He once told the principal that he was the worst kid in school, affecting his participation in athletics. He lives in New York City, so there aren't as many opportunities as in the suburbs. So he is a self-proclaimed couch potato. His dad has him in developmental basketball, tennis, taekwondo, all of which he does reluctantly. Recently, he was playing in a fun family soccer or wiffle ball game with cousins and was near tears when he made an out. He skis frequently with the family, but prefers to be indoors where he has less chance of making mistakes. While scoring in the top 1% cognitively, his dyslexia seems to interfere with sports concepts. Suggestions? Do you have any suggestions to flip his mindset? I believe in the value of sports in a kid's life. His dad perseveres only by bribing him to go to the park and play catch or shoot hoops.
Cool. I really love this question and love the engaged. So it was from the mom?
I don't know who this is from. She doesn't give us
really.
any
I didn't
context.
Get that right.
Yeah. I was feeling grandmother from this, but
okay. Marilyn sounds like a grandmother's name. Marilyn, when you're sitting with Evelyn and Gertrude and the other grandmothers, I appreciate this question because I appreciate the concern and I appreciate the approach that the parents are taking and how much they're trying to get their kid to the field and put them in. I also appreciate it because I grew up with dyslexia. I can resonate with this so well. I am probably going to butcher the quote, but I'm going to paraphrase it. I don't know if it's truly attributed to Einstein, but that's where I saw it attributed to, which is if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, ...
Yep.
Some people aren't built to excel in school. And that's where I feel so much for this kid because he's scores in the top 1% from a cognitive perspective, smart kid, but he feels like he's the worst kid in the school. That sucks. It sounds like they've explored other options, but there's not that many options in the city like there is in the suburbs. Here's a couple of the suggestions that I would, first off is both parents read Carol Dweck's Mindset, it's really important that you use the language of the growth mindset and not the fixed mindset. Really key that the parents are using the right language. If they're saying things like smart or not smart, as opposed to rewarding hard work, effort, the struggle, it's going to be a long, long haul because you're reinforcing this belief system that struggle equals failure. Parents through language can rework that. So that'd be the first thing, the parents being very intentional with the environment they're creating for the kid. The next thing I would do is there is 3 different zones of skill acquisition. There is the comfort zone, the learning zone, and the panic zone. For someone like this, he is almost by default immediately thrust into panic zone. He doesn't even have to get into the situation and he's already panicking. He would rather be inside than outside skiing because there might be a chance of failure. So we need to put them in the best situation for some quick, easy wins. So what we need to do is put them in comfort zone. So maybe that comfort zone is skiing, but maybe that's not skiing with peers. It's only skiing with dad. Because when he's with a peer, he's afraid that he might catch an edge, not be on the chairlift, hit a patch of ice, fall down, look like a fool in front of people. Start to get these quick, easy wins. Dad then talks to him with growth mindset about, you worked really hard on that steep section. Not, good job, you're a much better skier now. Fixed, right? That means if he struggles, he's not a better skier. But you worked really hard on that steep, challenging section. You're rewarding effort. And now he starts to value himself based off of effort and not outcomes. Once you start to value effort, not outcomes, that can be transferable to other endeavors. But we still want to keep him in that sweet spot on the edge of comfort and learning. Again, think of it as like bullseyes. The inside one is comfort, not bullseye like we want to hit it, just like the smallest part. The next layer of that is learning. The next one is panic. He's oversensitive to panic. His learning zone is razor thin, like human hair thin. It almost doesn't exist. So what we have to do is go, okay, it's either comfort or panic. Which of the two is better between comfort and panic? It's comfort. Because in comfort, at least he's doing the things.
Yep.
So we want to be able to put him in a place where he can be successful. The third part of this, so we have now control the language environment of a growth mindset, create up comfort areas where he can get quick wins. And the third one is get him off of screens altogether. There is no screens for that kid at all. No video games, no phone, no iPad, no YouTube, get him off screens. It's too much of a sweet spot for the alternative to being outside. Now, if he wants to go and not be outside and instead play chess, awesome. It doesn't need to be outside. Does he want to instead go and learn a musical instrument? Awesome. Great. It doesn't need to be sports. But it can't be screens.
It's interesting because there's that distinction between comfort as a learning zone and comfort as a place to hide, which I think is really worth just double clicking on. We all do, but he especially wants the comfort where he's not going to fail. Nobody's going to judge him. He's not feel like he's judged. And that's the TV, that's the iPad, that's the inside, that's the safe space. That's not the same thing as the comfort that you're talking about in a learning zone. There's still some discomfort there, but it's not so discomforting that he's gonna balk at it. He's gonna run away from it. Right.
Yeah, it's a good call out. When I say comfort zone, I mean closer to comfort zone, right? Yes. I'm still asking him to get uncomfortable. It sounds like even going out skiing by himself with his dad is uncomfortable. He would rather be doing this. And guess what? so would 50% of kids.
Yep.
My kids are two of those kids. They would rather be inside on their iPads than outside playing sports with their friends. This past summer, some of our friends, they had, I think I've talked about this before on the podcast, but they had 5 kids.
Yep.
5 kids under the age of 4. Think about that for a moment. That is like, I can't even imagine that. Those kids now are, the oldest ones are like 11 and 12.
Yep.
So they have 5 kids between the ages of basically 8 and 12. Think of what those car rides are like.
Mm-hmm.
They don't let their kids go on screens at all.
Mm-hmm.
There is no iPads in their house at all. Patrick just took a deep breath.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard for the parents. It's the moment that we get a little reprieve. We get a little break. They had one of their kids that was having real challenges in school, behavioral learning and the rest. They took him to a bunch of specialists, couldn't really get any help. They finally took him to another one. These people have phenomenal means. They can bring him to anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Finally brought them somewhere, and the expert that they saw had a really really simple suggestion, which is get them off screens.
Yeah.
Besides the immediate lashback and reluctance and hard part of changing a habit, they saw immediate changes in all 5 of their kids. You can't have one kid off screen and allow the other ones to go on. So no kids got screens. We heard that this summer, and since summer of this Cape, we have not had our kids use screens. There's one caveat to that, which is Saturday and Sunday mornings they're allowed to use the television, but no iPads, no phones. The rule we made, because we're not as awesome as those parents, we're not as brave, is for car rides greater than an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's where we're at too. Yeah.
Yeah. So car rides over an hour and a half, obviously if we're on a plane or something like that. So that's where we will bring out the iPads. Besides that, the iPads are gone. They're not in our house anymore. And we've seen cool changes. We didn't see the drastic things, but we also didn't have kids that were struggling in certain areas like other ones are. And a cool part is, like, we were driving to our son's soccer game. Oh, no, not even soccer. We're driving to the gym on Saturday morning as a family for a Saturday morning workout. And they'd even asked for their iPads and said they both brought books. It's a 12-minute ride, and they both read books on the car ride there. And we didn't even, recognize what was happening until we were almost, 3/4 of the way to the gym. We were like, oh, my God. They're both reading
We're winning.
books. Yeah. Shh, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Don't wake up the monster. Don't bring attention. Don't bring any attention to it. Just let it lie. Shh. Do you see what I'm seeing?
Thank you, Marilyn. That was a great question. Thank you, everybody who sends us questions. Thank you to everybody out there for listening, for leaving us ratings, for reviews. Certainly subscribe to the show. If you are not, wherever you're listening or watching this, so you don't miss another one, chasingexcellence.email is the best way to get questions into your queue. We send out an email every weekend with a link to a form. You can submit as many as you've got, and we'd love to see them, and we thank you in advance. Ben and I will be back soon for a brand new episode of Chasing Excellence.